Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Secretary Hegseth, you're requesting billions of dollars in supplemental funding for a war that you said would last for weeks and that the president has no plan or ability to end. At the same time, this still unauthorized and extremely unpopular war has caused gas, diesel, fertilizer, and other essentials that New Yorkers and our farmers need across the country and has become much more expensive. So how do I go back to New York, and what would you say to them who are seeing their health care bills rise because massive cuts to Medicaid? They've seen their grocery and gas bills rise, and this unpopular and unauthorized war abroad is a higher priority to this administration than their ability to feed their families and provide health care to their loved ones who are sick.
What happens when Democrats try to score political points against America's military and end up exposing just how weak their own arguments really are? That's exactly what unfolded in this explosive Senate hearing. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand thought she had Pete Hegseth cornered over defense spending, but what happened next tells you everything you need to know about the left's priorities. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the Blue Brief, smash that like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss the biggest political stories the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. Today's hearing wasn't just another political argument. It was a battle over America's future. On one side, you had Democrats insisting that strengthening our military somehow comes at the expense of the American people. On the other side, Pete Hegseth made the case that a strong America is the only way to protect American families from enemies who are becoming more dangerous every single day. Gillibrand repeatedly argued that the administration is asking for too much money for national defense while Americans struggle with health care, housing, groceries, and food assistance. It's a talking point we've heard for years. The left always presents national security and helping Americans as if they're mutually exclusive. But here's what they never tell you.
Well, Senator, you're talking about political trade-offs, and our job is to deliver for the United States military and the President of the United States. And we look at the cost of a nuclear Iran, and we want to prevent that for future generations. And that requires funding and supplementals and this budget and next generation capabilities. And that's why we're here today to request some of that to ensure we can ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon.
So you're essentially saying you're asking for literally $1.5 trillion for a war that President Trump said he already won. You're asking for $1.5 trillion, unlimited money for bombs, but insufficient money for the American people, for their health care, their food, their housing, and our farmers, Secretary Rollins, who we have cut SNAP program. We are not funding the losses from emergencies that have happened in blue states, particularly when we had frost.
That's
False.
not true.
False. You're not funding it. But back to you, Secretary Hegseth.
And I would like to respond to the fertilizer and the gas.
Have your chance, Secretary Hegseth.
There's no reason to be rude.
You are asking for unlimited money for bombs when people can't feed their families. And I don't know how this administration intends to defend those decisions to the American people.
Not unlimited bombs, Senator. I'm asking for the right bombs at the right time to ensure we can deter our adversaries into the future. And that's how this is a generational investment. And it was the previous administration that didn't fund this department.
The reason why they are so upset with you and this administration is because the words you have used in the past don't add up. About Iran specifically, you said that we had obliterated, quote unquote, Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. The president made the same claim. Yet 8 months later, in February of 2026, the president launched an active war claiming Iran was within 2 weeks of having a weapon. So when you say two very different things, the American people don't know who to believe or what to believe. They just know they can't afford their health care, they can't afford their food, they can't afford housing, and our farmers are continuing to suffer. So, which is true? Was it obliterated or wasn't it? What's the status?
The nuclear sites under Midnight Hammer were obliterated, but Iranians foolishly continued to attempt to pursue nuclear capabilities, which is why we destroyed their defense industrial base and so many of the other capabilities to ensure they can't get to a nuclear weapon. So we're staying laser focused on the objective, and you're trying to make campaign commercials.
No, we're not.
And that's fine.
So listen to this. You also say that you made the missile program, quote, destroyed and made combat ineffective. Quote, Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity, every company that builds every component of those missiles has been functionally defeated and destroyed, and that the missile program, existing stockpiles were depleted and decimated, almost completely ineffective. So why are there missiles left to hit Jordan and result in the loss of life of our brave men and women?
As we stated from the beginning, the Iranian defense industrial base is effectively gone. But they do have underground facilities because they're the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, and they've spent 47 years trying to hide their missiles under mountains, just like their nuclear capabilities, because they would like to get a nuclear weapon to wield it against us.
Of the war to believe, because it's either over or it's not over. It's within 2 weeks or it's not 2 weeks. We have no missiles or we have missiles, and that consternation is why so many New Yorkers are perplexed, stressed out, and find this war to be incredibly unpopular because they don't understand the choices that the president's making. They don't agree with those choices. Secretary Rollins, so you have cut over 160,000 New Yorkers have been kicked off SNAP. What do you have against hardworking New Yorkers, children who need SNAP, and seniors who need SNAP?
Well, first of all, diesel is down under Biden versus today, 581 versus 480. Gas is down from Biden today from 484 to 386 today. Fertilizer is down 56% from Biden highs.
Prices
so this
are
narrative
higher than when you took office.
Well,
all of those prices are higher than when you took office. So you are not
that
making
is
life
not
better
true.
for
That
New York
is not
farmers.
true, Senator. And let me tell you what New York is stressed out about is the fact that your state is taking prime farmland and turning it into solar farms. That is absolutly inexcusable.
For you to stand, you will see
I have visited the New York farmers two times in upstate New York.
Has expired.
Without national security, none of those domestic programs matter. History has shown time and again that peace isn't maintained by wishful thinking, it's maintained by strength. Weakness invites aggression. Strength prevents it. Pete Hegseth refused to apologize for investing in America's military. He made it clear that the goal isn't endless war. The goal is making sure America's enemies think twice before ever attacking us. That's a message many conservatives have been waiting to hear. One of Gillibrand's biggest attacks centered around the administration's statements about Iran. She argued that officials previously claimed Iran's nuclear capability had been destroyed, yet later warned that Iran remained a serious threat. Now, let's be honest, destroying nuclear facilities doesn't magically erase an extremist regime's ambitions overnight. Iran has spent decades building underground facilities, hiding weapons, and finding new ways to threaten America and our allies. Eliminating infrastructure is one thing, eliminating intentions is something different. That distinction is important, and it's one many critics conveniently ignore. The hearing became even heated when Gillibrand suggested the administration was asking for unlimited money for bombs instead of helping struggling American families. Hegseth immediately rejected that characterization. He wasn't asking for unlimited spending. He argued America needs the right weapons at the right time to deter future wars. That's a very different argument. Conservatives understand something that Washington often forgets. The cheapest war is the one that never happens because America's enemies know they'll lose. Deterrence saves lives. Military readiness saves lives. Weak leadership costs lives. Another major flashpoint came when Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins defended the administration's economic record. Gillibrand focused on SNAP reductions and rising costs facing families.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to our witnesses here today. I want to begin by first echoing my colleagues' comments that we've heard throughout the hearing here and join them in mourning the loss of American service members who were killed in action these last few days. My thoughts are with their families, with a service member who remains missing, and with all those injured during the strikes. And I will continue to pray for their families. Secretary Hegseth, over the course of the war with Iran, I have repeatedly expressed concerns regarding the administration's lack of a winning strategy and repeated contradictions about the state of the war. It frankly doesn't help that you and your president continues to mislead the American people. You and the president have repeatedly said that the war, as we've heard over and over again, is almost over or already won. In fact, the president alone has said the war is almost over more than 30 times. On March 1st, the president said, we'll be done in 4 or 5 weeks. On March 9th, he said the war was very complete. On April 8th, he declared total and complete victory, 100%, no question about it. On the same day, you declared Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield, a capital V military victory by any measure. And yet today, July 21st, we have soldiers whose remains are sadly going to be returned to their deeply grieving families tomorrow. Clearly, the war is not over yet. After months of conflict, our strategy to win remains unclear. I have long said the United States has the strongest military in history in the world, and I have no doubt that our brave service members can execute any mission and prevail in any battle. But without a clear winning strategy, we're at risk of being in another forever war that'll put our service members in continued harm's way and continue to cost taxpayers billions of dollars. Secretary Hegseth, despite your failure to win this war, you are back now before Congress asking for almost $70 billion in additional funding. You're asking the American people for a blank check because, once again, the Trump administration's efforts have been an utter and complete failure to win this war to this point. So my question for you, sir, is how is your strategy different than what we've seen in the past? So far, we have not seen a strategy that's been successful. You mentioned nuclear material is the primary goal of the war. It still exists. We haven't dealt with that issue yet. You talk about the destruction of missiles, and yet the missiles that we saw hit recent targets are actually somehow more lethal, more deadly, more maneuverable than what we have seen in the past. So they're obviously improving their munitions. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed, reminding everybody it was open before the war. Prices were lower for everybody until the war, and it still remains closed. And of course, tragically, people, service members, our war fighters, who we care deeply about, are still dying. So what's different? Mr. Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth.
I think your characterization of this incredible effort as a failure is reckless. And I think it's irresponsible. And I think it smears the sacrifice of the troops that are out there making on behalf of the American people to ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. Shame on you and others who call this a quagmire and a failure, and then you want to turn around and say you support the warfighter. Either you do or you don't.
Is the nuclear material still there,
I can
sir?
get you a ticket out to CENTCOM and talk to what those Americans are doing and how committed they are to this effort and how they want to ensure that Iran never threatens their families with a nuclear weapon. That's the kind of intensity that our warfighters have about making sure that Iran isn't capable of doing that.
Secretary Hegseth, if you listen to my comments, you would have heard me say how amazing our warfighters are.
I heard failure. And the word I heard exactly what you said.
I will tell you how I use the word failure, because I use the word failure to their leaders. You, sir, are the failure, not the men and women who are on that front line, not the men and women who hold up their honor with distinction. But if there's a lack of a winning strategy, they're in harm's way. Their leaders have failed them. And that's what's happening. We have political leadership. You don't have a strategy. You don't have a long-term plan to actually win this war. Win the war. The men and women are going to be able to do it, but they need to have leadership. When will you show leadership? When will you show leadership?
Why don't you show some leadership and stand up to your fellow Democrats who won't fund the troops, who stand and play partisan politics while you don't the money? You want to stand up here and talk about the troops? You won't show any political courage to actually fund our department because you have Trump derangement syndrome and can't actually commit to anything meaningful. So I put this on you, Senator.
Secretary Hegseth, you have trillions, you have over $1 trillion, you're asking for $1.5 trillion. It's not a question of money, it's a question of leadership and understanding what it takes to actually win.
Political cowardice of Democrats who won't fund the troops.
Senator's time has expired.
Rollins pushed back by arguing that fuel and fertilizer prices had fallen compared to previous highs and shifted attention toward policies affecting American farmland. Whether viewers agree with every statistic or not, one thing became obvious. This hearing wasn't just about numbers. It was about two completely different visions for America. One side believes government spending should continue expanding social programs almost indefinitely. The other believes America's first responsibility is protecting the nation from threats that grow more dangerous every year. Perhaps the most dramatic moment came when another senator accused the administration of lacking a winning strategy in the Iran conflict. Hegseth didn't hold back. He forcefully defended American service members and argued that criticizing the military effort without acknowledging the sacrifices of the troops sends the wrong message to both allies and enemies. Whether you agreed with every word or not, there was no question he projected confidence. That's something Americans have increasingly demanded from Pentagon leadership. Here's what I believe. The world today is becoming more dangerous, not less. China is expanding. Russia remains aggressive. Iran continues supporting terrorist proxies. North Korea keeps advancing its missile programs. This isn't the time to signal weakness. America doesn't preserve peace by cutting its defenses. America preserves peace by making sure no adversary ever believes they can challenge us successfully. Can defense spending always be scrutinized? Absolutely. Taxpayer dollars should always be spent wisely. Waste should always be eliminated. Accountability should always exist. But pretending America can simply stop investing in its military while our adversaries continue building theirs is a fantasy that history has disproven over and over. That's why this debate matters far beyond Washington. It's about deciding what kind of nation America wants to be, strong enough to deter conflict or weak enough to invite it. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe Pete Hegseth made the stronger case, or do you agree with Senator Gillibrand's criticism of the administration's priorities? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, because your voice matters. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more honest conservative analysis without the mainstream media spin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Blue Brief, and share this video with friends and family. Together, we'll keep exposing what's really happening in Washington. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.